Welcome back to another episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glen Alexander. Tonight I'm joined by the Gerstein brothers. Are you guys big? You guys grew up in St. Louis? So Tyler, I know who your team is. You're a recurring guest here on the podcast. Devin, what about you? Are you following the footsteps? You a kind of a LeBron, Philadelphia 76ers fan? Who's your team?
My fandom switched after college to the Denver Nuggets, which I've been a season ticket holder for the last couple of years, including the run last year. Man,
well, I am. I'm jealous because Thunder here. It's been an easy and short road, of course, but can't say it's that bad at all. I'm not a Kings fan, but you know what? I'm jealous. We hopefully our chips coming this year. With all that being said, though, we gotta get into the playoff series matchups here, talk some NBA, and let's hop into it. So, I'll let you guys here first. So, as of course, huge Oklahoma City Thunder fan. Anyone's listening to the podcast has known I've been a Thunder fan since day one. They came to Oklahoma City when I was in 8th grade. But they did play the Wolves the other night. Anthony Edwards was going off about just, hey, we didn't get any foul calls. Then he gets fined $40,000. Just absurd behavior when you win a game, I got to say. But that being said, you guys are at least a little bit unbiased and less biased than I am. So who'd you take? You know what? Who'd you take? Wolves or Thunder in a playoff series?
I'll let Devin thinks he knows more about basketball than me. I'll let him start. I'll let him start with this question.
Cal, not to go contrarian off the bat, but I'm going to take the Wolves. I think that in the playoffs, it's defense wins out. I think offense slows down. A lot of times it turns into iso ball, and I think that the Thunder are the story of that NBA season so far. It's a lot of ball movement, a lot of cutting, a lot of stuff that I don't see working in the last 5 minutes of a playoff series, especially when you're talking about the Wolves defense, who have, top 5 defenders for their position across 4 spots. So, I'm gonna take the Wolves. All
right, Tyler, you agreeing here? You in the same boat?
It's tough. I mean, I would probably have to lean towards the agreement side. Defense absolutely wins out in playoff series in the NBA. The Thunder, I mean, they got some nice pieces. Obviously, Lou Dort's a really good defender. But I think overall, I would take Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert cat in a playoff series right now against the Thunder. Now, you ask me in a year or two, it's probably the Thunder, absolutely. But this year, I'm taking the Wolves.
Yeah, I got to say, as a Thunder fan, the season series has ended 2-2. Every game has been pretty close, pretty heavily contested, but it wears on me. Whenever the Thunder had that streak of playing, okay, they played both LA teams who have backup bigs. They have, Clippers have Zubac, they have Plumlee. Lakers, I don't even go into it, really. LeBron, AD, several other guys behind them. And then they play the T-Wolves during that stretch. It just looked like Chet was just getting really worn down. I mean, he's the guy. There's no other guy really behind him. There's Jay with a Y, Lynn Williams, and I mean, he's like 6'9", 6'10", and he just he's not the same type of guy whatsoever. This Thunder team, I would love if they could find a way to get like an Andre Drummond type of guy. Maybe he's not the perfect fit, but just somebody else down there to play some backup minutes, help out in some case the rebounding, because if you're looking at all the Thunder stats, they're all incredible except for rebounding. And
Steven Adams would have been great. He just got traded to the Rockets. So I know he's not healthy right now, but
that's a bizarre trade. I mean, for what, Victor Oladipo and some seconds? There's just a bunch of cap space moving around at that point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been a great guy for the Thunder too. I think he's owed way too much money, but yeah, I mean, if the Thunder get Steven Adams in a buyout, have him play, that's a dream come true, because he gets to come back home to OKC, where at least he started his career, and go from there. But I'm leaning more with where you guys are at, trying to get my homerism out of it, just because there's no bigs on the roster who can do really anything. This would be a perfect team for Nazr Muhammad to play for whenever he was with the Thunder years ago, or a Nick Collison type of guy. But you know what? Not out there right now. At least it's not just showing up at the same face. Maybe the Thunder fly over to China, Sam Presti does, and tries to go get Dwight. We'll see. But or wherever he is.
I think the Thunder can afford a lot more than Dwight and Steven Adams. I think, one of the biggest draft pick arsenals in the NBA, and one glaring weak spot of backup center, and so go out and get go out and get someone. It'll be interesting to see if they cash anything in, considering how quickly they ascended to, what are they now, third in the Western Conference?
Yeah, I think Bismack Biyombo's available, so that would be. I'm joking.
I mean, yeah, there's just so many guys like they could go get, and I think the one thing with the Thunder is that they have like the draft pick arsenal to give out. They have whatever it is to give up, but like, all right, Jared Allen. Well, the Cavs are playing great, so he's not available whatsoever. And the Cavs are weirdly playing good, even though they just got Evan Mobley back the other night. So I think the Thunder have to overpay. Like they have to so far and vastly overpay because it's just known that they have a war chest of picks. And honestly, when you look into the picks, they're a bunch of Clippers picks, they're a bunch of Thunder picks, they're a bunch of Suns picks, there's a couple Rockets picks, but like there are a bunch of teams that they don't have like a Detroit Pistons pick this year, or something. So there's just a bunch of picks where, okay, you trade for those, and then all of a sudden that team's got to do a lot with those picks to bundle them up to get a higher draft pick too. Not saying that they're worthless or anything like that, but they're all like they're pick 15 or they're heavily protected where they're not in the top 5. So I wonder what they do, and when they decide to finally push the chips all in. That's the biggest question mark here is like, do you let this team just kind of play itself out one more year? I really don't want to, but man, who knows what's going to happen.
To your point, I think it's wait until someone comes available. I think they're in a position where they don't have to force something. They don't have to go out and give everything up to go and get Nick Claxton, but they could certainly cash in a couple to get an Isaiah Stewart. They don't have to wait for the superstar to become available.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there too. But yeah, we'll just kind of have to wait and see, what happens with them. On the same type of deal here, though, with the playoff runs, there's 3 teams right now who are all varying differences in for how they are on the schedule here and how they are in the win-loss column. You got Phoenix, you got the Clippers, and of course you also have the Lakers. Lakers recently, of course, have had a ton of success comparatively to the other 2 teams in the playoffs. I mean, Phoenix did the finals not too long ago, but they've got a whole new roster. So I want to ask you guys, between all those 3 teams, Clippers, Suns, and the Lakers, Tyler, I think I know who you're going to take here, but which one of the 3 of those do you think is going to be the best in the playoffs this year?
I mean,
the deepest run.
As badly as I want to say the Lakers, because this season is eerily similar to the season they were having last year, where they're going to make the play-in tournament, and they made the Western Conference Finals, and obviously we know how that one went, getting swept by the Denver Nuggets. Part of me wants to take the Lakers. Again, I got to see what they do at the deadline. They're a couple of pieces away. I'll go Clippers because I think the Clippers could easily win it all. I think they have everything they need. James Harden's playing amazing. Kawhi's not missing games. Paul George is playing well. Ty Lue, top 3-5 coach in the NBA. So I would definitely take the Clippers to potentially even just win the championship. But as far as those 3 teams making the deepest run, give me the Clippers moving into their new building in 25. They're 24. They're playing well at a good time.
All right, Devin. Yeah, same question to you here. Of those 3, who do you think is going to be facing your team, the Nuggets, in the Western Conference Finals?
If it was right now, I think the Clippers are the obvious answer. I think that a lot of people are eating their words after the James Harden trade, and I think that that's obviously turned out to make them legit contenders. I can't pick the Clippers in a playoff series until I can see Kawhi and Paul George make it through an entire series without getting hurt. And I think that, again, going back to in the playoffs slows down. It's a lot of ISO. It's a lot of mid-range. I think it's going to be hard to stop Devin Booker and Kevin Durant healthy for an entire playoff run. So I think the Suns have the highest ceiling of any of those teams. So I'm going to go Suns.
Well, I think I got to be the one contrarian here and just say the Lakers. Take LeBron with the experience. They're probably going to do something at the deadline here. Figure it out. I mean, LeBron, the GM, he's going to figure something out, right, Tyler? I mean, something's going to happen here with your guy.
What would you like to see them do with the deadline? I don't know. Do they trade Rui? Do they trade D'Lo? I mean, yes, but like those guys were the reasons they made it to the Western Conference Finals last year. They were the deadline acquisitions that got them over the top and had them make a run in the playoffs. So what would you like to see them do? I mean, what could the Lakers do to get over that hump?
If DeJounte Murray is out there and you don't have to give up Austin Reeves, that'd be the deal I'd make. if so, there's some way to keep, of course, LeBron and AD and then Austin Reeves on the team, and then go get DeJounte Murray. That's one heck of a lineup, especially when you're gonna have a DeJounte Murray who's like, all right, I'm going from a chance here where every night I'm kind of passing the ball up to Trae Young to shoot 30,000 threes, and then on the other hand, I'm trying to hit game winners when he's not playing. And then all of a sudden, DeJounte Murray could go to the Lakers. I just think that could be a whole personality switch back to kind of the type of guy he was with the Spurs. You could reinvigorate him. He could play a lot better defense because right now he's not playing great defense. That's been known. That's the trade I would like to see. The worst thing I think the Lakers could do is go get Zach LaVine. I mean, there's just no reason to get another big ball handler who needs the ball in his hands every minute and doesn't play that great defense, especially at the 2 guard for the Lakers. But I would go get DeJounte if you could. I mean, how many more years is LeBron going to play? Like, I just view it as a timeline. Every single NBA pundit or media guy is like, man, the Thunder should have capitalized when they had Harden. The Thunder should have capitalized when they had Durant and Westbrook. They should have really pushed all the chips in. And I think the Lakers have always done a good job at like trying to do something. Last year they did something, trying to push it, right? Like they keep always trying to retool around LeBron, make the contracts, make it all work, and just get the team to be as best as they can. And heck, if stuff's out there, like screw the salary tax. I mean, there's so many other teams who would kill to be in this position that they're in right now. So it's like, all right, like what do you get from a LeBron James team right now who could make a move but doesn't? Even if you think it helped the team like 2%, like, all right, yeah, 6 years from now, maybe they won't be good. But then you know what? Another 6 years, they'll be good again because they're the free agency destination of the world. I mean, if you're a true free agent, would you rather go to the Lakers or the Celtics? Like, 2 most storied franchises in the NBA. Like, probably choosing the Lakers.
Probably going West Coast.
Yeah, probably going out to LA. So only a couple of us here have done that. Other on the other side of the conference, though, you got the Heat, Cavs, and Knicks. They're in very different spots as well, too. Heat right now are 7. Cavs are 4. Knicks are 3. Heck, could even throw in the Pacers there at 6. But which one of those 3 or 4 teams do you guys like the best to make a deep run in the playoffs as well? Devin, I'll throw it back to you.
I have learned over the last 5 years that I will never count out the Heat. Despite the Heat struggles this year, I think Terry Rozier was a perfect acquisition for them. We've not seen 80% of what we know that Jimmy Butler is going to be in the playoffs. I'm actually it's less because of what I know that he can do and more because of the limitations of the Cavs and the Knicks. I don't trust a Tibbs team to be able to make a deep run in the playoffs. I think that the OG trade was probably the right thing for them to do. I just don't think that it increased their ceiling too much. And the Cavs have learned over the last month that they are a much better team when they have floor spacing. I think that this conversation is a lot different if Evan Mobley is extended to the 3-point line. But I think that them playing 2 effective centers, especially around 2 guards who are great at getting to the rim, I think that the Cavs are going to be in an interesting position this offseason with what they do with Jared Allen, who has been playing at an all-star level. So, I don't think the Cavs' current lineup is going to be able to do it. Don't trust the Knicks, and I think it would be crazy to count the Heat out.
But to your point, about the Wolves earlier, defense, plays in playoffs, wins championships. The Knicks have the number 1 defense in the NBA. So what about a Tibbs team don't you trust in the playoffs? Is it just the ability to score more points than the other team? Because defensively, they're going to show up. They're going to hold their team into, 85, 95 points, probably under 100. I guess what concerns you about the Knicks making a run? Yeah,
I don't trust Tibbs to be able to make in-game and in-series adjustments. I think he showed that throughout his career is that his team is going to be incredibly well coached on defense. They're not going to have a very cohesive offense, and they're not going to be able to make in-game adjustments that are going to help them win series. And I think that they showed that years ago when Trae Young beat them in their own building. They barely squeaked past Cavs team last year. Yeah, I think the Knicks are destined for another second-round playoff exit.
But they get past first. They got out of the first round though as a 4 seed or 5 seed, whatever they are.
As long as they're not going to go against the Heat, but there's no way the Heat are making that run. But yeah, I think the Knicks are a second round playoff team.
Well, with all intents and purposes, as long as the Heat are not a play-in team, and even if they are a play-in team, I mean, they can go as far as they want to. They're a play-in team last year, and they went all the way to the finals. So I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here when I say this, but they won just their last game, but before then they had a 7-game losing streak in a row. Are we taking anything away from that, or are they just still, hey, they're the Heat, they're going to keep rolling, they'll figure it out in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think there's no takeaways from a losing streak. I think it could be a 12-game losing streak. I think that you have the best coach in the NBA. You have the one of the clutchest playoff performers in the NBA. You have a team who's been there, who's shown that they can do it. You have Bam, another year older. Again, I think that the upgrade from 36-year-old Kyle Lowry, who can't move anymore, to Terry Rozier, who's having a really good bounce back season with the Hornets. I'm gonna take the Heat there.
All right. Well, I agree. That's all I could say though, because that's why I'm playing devil's advocate. So yeah, I think it's the Heat out of those three. But let me move it up a column here. Let me say Heat, 76ers, and Bucks. Still who are you taking here out of that playoff run? I mean, that's just a little bit more advanced here because, of course, Heat beat the Bucks last year. But then again, Bucks have retooled completely here on defense and offense.
I mean, I would love to know what was going on behind the scenes with David Griffin. That makes no sense. I don't know how you fire a coach who was, 30-13, 31-13, and say, let's go get Doc Rivers, who outside of a stacked 2008 Celtics team has done nothing. Had a stacked 76ers team, couldn't get out of the second round. Had a stacked Clippers team, couldn't get out of the second round. So obviously the Bucks are crazy talented. Dame, Giannis, they could easily make a run. Out of those three, unbiased, I'm going, I got to go the Sixers. I think Nick Nurse is exactly what the Sixers needed. I think he's a great coach, X and Y's. And Joel Embiid is having an MVP type season. So if depending on what they do at the deadline, I don't even know if they necessarily need to make a crazy improvement at the deadline. I think Embiid, Maxey, Tobias, they have what it takes right now. So I would go Sixers.
All right. I mean, I would still go the Heat until proven otherwise. It's kind of like basically it's like, would I bet against Patrick Mahomes? I mean, would I bet against the Miami Heat who have done it and previously just keep going? And then Embiid, this kind of brings me to the next topic here, though. Will Embiid win the MVP because he may not make the amount of games played? So should the NBA also kind of look at here the 65 game played minimum they instituted this year for all NBA awards? Should that be lessened? Maybe it should go up more? What are your guys' opinions on that one? Devin, I'll ask you first.
I just don't think it matters that much. I think that I think it's interesting that we've seen the reverse. I think that everyone wanted to see some rule implemented that made it so players were incentivized to play more. And I think that they implemented this. And I think that this week we saw the downside of that, which is a player playing injured. And I think we saw it. Everyone could see it from the second he stepped on the court. That Joel Embiid should not have been in that game. He hobbles around for 3.5 quarters, gets hurts his knee, and now is getting MRIs. So I think that we're seeing the downside of that is we're seeing a player who should not have been played, who let media pressure push him back into coming back earlier, and now he's hurting himself. So I think that NBA voters are smart enough to know that what kind of player deserves it. I think that they know, hey, I'm not going to vote for someone who's playing 40 games. I think these NBA voters already have those game limits in place for what they think is enough games. And I think that if we're trusting them to be able to vote on the MVP, we should trust them to not vote an MVP who's not playing enough. All
right. Tyler, do you have any other? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I like it because I'm sick of, players sitting when they're healthy enough to play. Like Embiid said, he doesn't care about the MVP. He wants to win a championship. So if that means playing 50, 55 games to be healthy during the playoffs, I'm all for that. I don't hate the rule, but I do think it was ridiculous that he was playing injured to potentially try and win, another MVP award. I think, I think I don't know. I'm torn on it. I like the rule to make players that are healthy enough play. There's only a handful of players in the NBA that can win, an MVP award every year. And obviously Embiid, Jokic, Giannis, those are guys that can, and they should be playing, but he should be sitting and worrying about winning a championship over an MVP.
Yeah. I got to say, as as someone who's a fan of, a smaller franchise, the fact that the Thunder have had 2 MVPs in their existence, and basically their, almost, less than 20-year existence is incredible. And you're talking about those guys, like those guys both played 65 plus games. I think this is really just a rule for the fans more than anything else. How many times are we going to go, okay, you know what? Joel didn't play Saturday against Jokic, and on Monday everyone's talking about it, and then Tuesday you go, oh, well, he does when he looks injured when he gets out there on the court. And it's like, all right, well, there's probably a good reason why he didn't play Saturday. Okay, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, like, how many people are going to? I don't want to give crap to the Pistons, but how many people right now are going to the Pistons games looking to see the other team play? And then all of a sudden you got a guy sitting now because he's making an MVP case or not, because there's just not that minimum. And then you've got Draymond Green going, well, Kawhi won Defensive Player of the Year over me when he played less than 65 games, which I think was true once of Kawhi's career. I think he played 64 in one of those Defensive Player of the Years. But with that being said, I would raise it. I would go up to 70. Like, you're still missing 12 games of the season. At what point are you just at what point do us as fans go, okay, you know what, you got to play more games for this to matter? Like this, yeah, injuries suck.
Or should we shorten the NBA season?
I would not, because then again, like that's only hurting the fans at the end of the day. Like, I just think it's helping the players. It's just lessening the amount of games you can go to. And it's really just it might make the experience better at the games itself. But how many people are going to a Thunder game right now because, oh, you know what, Friday night they're playing the Hornets. It'll be like the cheapest ticket of the season to go see the Thunder play. But they're looking at that matchup, right? Whereas, like, if you're cutting 12 games or whatever it is, that's probably one of the games they're cutting. Is probably like that game, maybe the Super Bowl when they play, I think the Magic or something that same day. And I try to think about it at some point. Okay, you know what? Yeah, the tickets probably won't sell incredibly well. Yeah, it'll be like an off night for a bunch of the arena workers and all type of stuff. It'll be lower attendance on some of these games. But then again, that's also some of the best games to go to. Tyler, you and I both know, like, from what we do, sometimes the most valuable games, like, are also the cheapest ones to go to. And it's some of the best things that, you get that real experience where people are like, hey, where can I get the most bang for my buck? Like, I don't care. I'm a big fan of the Thunder. I want to see him play. I don't care if it's against the Hornets without LaMelo Ball. Like, I still want to go to a Thunder game. Like, that's the only thing in town, right? So, yeah. You guys growing up, like, Rams, when they weren't good, you still were passionate fans, right? Like, they're the team in St. Louis. Cardinals, they're historically incredible, so I don't need to tell you anything about them. But, and anyways, I can get off my soapbox a little bit here as well, too.
I don't think the question on that is whether or not the fans want to see more basketball being played. I think it's about the basketball being played. I think, to Tyler's point, 82 games is so many. I think the NBA has a huge problem with the regular season becoming insignificant. They created an entire in-season tournament strictly around trying to get more interest for regular season games. And I think that you're seeing these players sit out on second game of back-to-backs for the exact reason that this game doesn't matter. That there's the fact that there are so many games is decreasing the significance of these individual games. So you're talking about we should keep these games on. We should keep these extra 10 games that they would cut. But at that point, this is going to be a game that you're going to see Kawhi and Paul George sit out, and you're going to see Norm Powell shoot 35 shots a game, and that's not good for any fans. So I think, and your fans are paying the same price. Fans are paying hundreds of dollars for a ticket to then see these players sit out. And I think you hit the nail on the head. The issue is not on this should not be a conversation about NBA awards. I think that we need to decouple the conversation on players sitting out, from whether or not that player should be eligible for an award. I think that we need to be looking holistically at how are we increasing the fan experience, and how are we going to help remedy a situation where a family is saving up for a year to take their kid to their first ever game, and they finally go to this game to see LeBron play, and he's sitting on the bench in warmups. And I think that the NBA needs to figure out how they're going to help the fans, and whether or not that's making players push it past their limit. I agree with Tyler that I think a solution would be shortening the season. I think that the NBA, that's something that the NBA is probably taken off the table from a revenue standpoint. And I think the big question is that they're renegotiating their TV rights contracts right now. And if I'm TNT, if I'm ESPN, if I'm Amazon, who knows who's in this bidding this year?
Peacock.
The first question I'm asking is what happens when, I've paid millions of dollars for this program and the TNT game is two B teams against each other. So I think they got to be worrying about the fans and they got to be worrying about the TV rights. And I don't know what the solution is. I just don't think that telling a player, hey, from this arbitrary number, I know that this is a real injury. You're at, 63 games. You broke X records, but sorry, I think that let NBA voters vote, let fans watch the players play. Let's get a good big TV deal. Let's get the players more money.
Well, I know I talked about both sides of it. I know I said, hey, if you're a big, huge LeBron fan, but you're living in Detroit and you save up for that one Lakers game a year, right? And then he sits, like, that sucks. But then I also talked about the other side of, okay, you're a huge, for example, Pistons fan. You want to sit in the lower level, you save up for that whole year, and you're like, hey, I just want to go see the Pistons play, right? Like, I know I talked both sides of the issue here, but why do you think this is just now an issue? Because, like, a decade ago, we weren't talking about load management and player rest. I mean, maybe we were, and I just forgotten about it. But this seems like a much more recent thing. The NBA's has had 82 games now for, I mean, how long since the merger? I forget really. So why are we talking about this? I guess in the past 5 years, really seems to become a deal, especially kind of with how Kawhi treats it. And 20 years ago, when all of us were following the NBA a little bit, right? But when, like, LeBron was at, ascending and all type of stuff, why weren't we talking about then? Especially when, in my mind, all the stuff on the player side of it has only gotten better. The travel, the routines, the maintenance, like all that type of stuff. Like, is it because we just know more info about the players, or what's going on here? Why is this now more of an issue than it seems like it ever has been before?
I think 10, 15, 20 years ago, players would have played on a sprained ankle, and now they're going to sit out 2 weeks for a sprained ankle. That's a good question. I really don't know what could have possibly changed, because you're right. I think it's been 82 games since the merger, and I don't remember talking about load management 10 years ago, 12 years ago. To your point, maybe I don't remember it, but I do not think players were sitting out or just taking a night off. So I think they're more cognizant now of the health benefits of sitting out a couple of games to be able to make a deeper playoff run. But I think at the end of the day, players back then were probably just playing injured, and I think they were playing on an ankle because their team needed them. Whereas nowadays, to Devin's point, the games don't matter as much. It's a long season, so you're going to sit out if your ankle hurts or you're not feeling well. A flu game, the player now with a flu is not playing. Whereas back then, you have the flu game because of Michael Jordan playing with a flu. So I just think times have changed in that sense.
Yeah, I think it's two big things for me. I mean, look, I think in the 80s, you had players doing cocaine at halftime. You had Larry Bird celebrating playoff wins with beers in the locker room. I think that the NBA there's so much more money in the NBA now than we could have even dreamed in the 80s. And I think that franchises know this. I mean, if you're the GM or owner of a franchise, it's now worth $4 billion. Yeah, and the science is showing that if you are resting your players more, the chances of them getting hurt are significantly decreased. I think that we put a lot of this focus on the players, and I think, Tyler, you're right. These players would be playing through stuff. I think a lot of players in today's NBA would vote to play through stuff, and teams know it is in their best interest to sit these players. I think you look at the Mikal Bridges issue that happened a couple weeks ago, where he started a game so he could keep a streak alive, and they took him out after 4 minutes of the game, and he was asked about it afterward, and he's like, "This is ridiculous. I wouldn't have signed up for this. I wanted to play." I think for the most part, these players want to play. I think the teams know there's too much money in this. It is in our best interest to sit these players. And so, yeah, I think we've come a long way from the cocaine 80s days to, these $4 billion franchises. So I think that money has definitely made these teams a little more cautious.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I just think there's a lot more research. I just wish there was still a way to play 82. Because, like, at some point, I'm going to go, crap, the NBA season's over. And it'll be annoying that, oh, man, I forgot that there's not like a Thunder game on a random Friday night or, Wednesday or whatever. Just because I'm not the biggest baseball fan in the entire world, so I don't even know, see how the Padres do this year, but still, it's just kind of one of those things of, all right, like the NBA's on. I mean, it's almost always on. And I don't think by decreasing it 12 games, you're really going to just be cutting into that, or 10 games, whatever it ends up being. But I just think it's just kind of making it a worse experience in some form and fashion. But Devin, to your point, I think this is a bunch of TV contracts, and I think all the TV offers were just seeing, hey, if you put in the 65-game rule, then we're going to pay this much more because we know, all right, there's a much better likelihood that we're going to have a good Suns-Nets game on a Wednesday night on TNT versus having Cam Thomas try to go off and shoot 30 shots against the Suns and possibly have a close game, but probably not. So definitely agree with you guys for sure.
Well, question for you then: if the goal is to get NBA on TV, fans in stadiums, and just games, what's your opinion then on 2 expansion teams? You can cut games, bring in 2 expansion teams. Amount of games played is going to stay the same.
Hey, I mean, in that scenario, that's great. Because, yeah, if you're cutting games from the schedule, but you're adding games like in the season, is that what, I mean, kind of we're getting at here by adding the expansion teams? I all for that. I mean, that's a good workaround because then, yeah, you just have more games are being played, period, with 2 other teams. And I think that's what the NBA right now is probably building towards. I would hope that's part of the in-season tournament deal is going, hey, you know what? Like in-season tournament, okay, we're going to have these pods where these 4 teams all play each other, or 5 teams. So that way the whole conference deal doesn't matter that much anymore. Because, I mean, if you add Vegas and Seattle, there's no way you're going to have a lopsided amount of conference teams, you know, in the West and only let 10 of them in versus the East 10 in and have a different amount of teams in each conference. So I'd be all for that. I mean, I don't think it's a secret to anyone. It's probably going to be Vegas and Seattle that, you know, Seattle comes back, Vegas gets a team. And then, yeah, you have kind of this in-season tournament deal as well, too, that you have the pods basically, and you have divisions matter more than conferences just because you're hopefully limiting, you know, the amount of travel and all type of stuff and kind of fatigue on players. And how many times do I hear a player say on a podcast, yeah, we got in at 4 the next day because the flight, you know, took forever to get off or whatever it may be. Whereas, you know, if you've got less games, then you know what? You're probably not having that many times where you've got New York to LA being a big flight and big travel day. And instead it's much more, you know, New York to Toronto or whatever instead. So be all for that for sure. You know, Devin, you mentioned Mikal though. You know, for the Nets here, that's kind of the one guy that I look right now up and down NBA rosters that we haven't mentioned so far. That seems like could be a big addition to somebody at the trade deadline. But then again, he's also such a big deal for his team in the Nets. Should Mikal Bridges get traded? Should the Nets try to go, hey, you know what? We know it's not in the cards with his contract and stuff and his age for him to be the greatest player on our team. Or should they just go ahead and just say keep him and keep trying to figure it out? Because they also don't have their draft picks too, which kind of sucks.
I'll let Devin take this one.
Yeah.
Look, if I'm a contending team, I'm calling the Nets daily. You know, I'm seeing what it's going to take, but if I'm the Nets, I'm hanging up. I don't know what a team could offer me. You know, what am I getting out of trading Mikal Bridges? We got a ton of assets during the Kevin Durant trade. We have a ton of wing assets. I think there's, you know, the Dorian Finney-Smiths. They're about to have to pay Nick Claxton. They're going to have to. They have
Cam
so
Johnson.
many. Yeah, Cam Johnson. They have so many good wings on that team that can fetch draft return. That I think we're seeing it with the Thunder. I think we're seeing it with the Pelicans. I think we're seeing it with the Jazz, right? You have these teams who are sitting on stockpiles of draft picks, and there will always be some team who can outbid you for the next superstar that comes available. And here's the thing is that we're in the age of player empowerment. Superstars are not just becoming available to carte blanche be bid to the highest bidder, right? Like, you know, you're not seeing Bradley Beal demand his trade to the Thunder. You know, you're seeing him want to go play with players. I think Mikal Bridges is on a fantastic contract. I think we all are fans of his. I think he's shown this year that he's not a number one option. But if I'm the Nets and it's just me tanking, you know, getting a bunch more draft assets and being the worst team with no franchise cornerstones whatsoever on that team, I'm going to keep Mikal Bridges. I'm going to try and move other pieces to bring in more assets. But yeah, to me, I can't imagine something that would be worthwhile. I'd demand a young player back, but I can't think of a contending team that has a a young player with the upside of Mikal Bridges that is going to be expendable in a trade like that.
Well, let me throw this scenario at you because this is the only one that comes to mind immediately, and of course it's the Thunder guy. Let's say the Thunder call up and go, "Hey, we'll trade you draft picks, Josh Giddey for Mikal Bridges." If you're the Nets, you just hang up the phone because you're like, "Hey, you know what? Like, no, we're good. We're gonna keep Bridges because Bridges he's born in '96, so he's 27, 28 right now. So what are you doing in that? And that's kind of the dream scenario for the Nets and the Thunder in that point. Like, I think it's the only one where it might kind of fit the scenario you're talking about that probably doesn't exist that many other places.
If Josh Giddey is the best player that I'm getting back for Mikal Bridges, I'm hanging up immediately.
Yeah, I'm hanging up the phone for sure.
Yeah, I do wonder what the perception of Josh Giddey is outside of the state of Oklahoma. You know, really, is he a good basketball player? Is he decent, or is he like the fourth best Thunder player? And he's like, whatever. I mean, Tyler, would you take Josh Giddey right now over any guy currently on your starting lineup?
For the Sixers?
Yeah, for the Sixers, yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably put I think they get a marginally better starting Josh Giddey over DeAnthony Melton. Marginally. Okay. But I think DeAnthony Melton's great. I think he fits that roster perfectly. I think he does exactly what they need him to do. But I would say they get marginally better putting Josh Giddey in that starting rotation.
Yeah. And I mean, Devin, I don't even need to ask you. I mean, there's no way you take Josh Giddey over the guys you've got starting for the Nuggets, right? Any of the five guys?
I mean, maybe do they get better with starting Giddey over KCP? I don't think so. KCP fits exactly what they need. He is 3-and-D, and that's what they need.
Yeah, I think the big piece is the three. I'm not going to take a guard who can't shoot. I'm not going to. If I'm a contending team, I think every single contending team. We just talked about the Lakers. We've talked about it with these teams who are struggling to score. Will struggle to score in the playoffs, and we saw what the Nuggets were able to do last year. We just put 5 people who can shoot threes out on the floor at the same time. Yeah, and I'm not putting a guard who can't shoot on a team who's trying to contend.
Yeah, I gotta say that was my biggest takeaway from the Timberwolves game. To go back to that for half a second with the Thunder, is that Giddey started out 4 from 4 from 3, and they just had Gobert guarding him, and Gobert didn't even go all the way out to the 3-point line. And Giddey knocked down 4 for 4. Timberwolves stuck with that game plan and ended up paying off. They still won. I mean, so it was a shock. It was a true shock because it was like, all right, maybe Casey Wall should start. I mean, there's just kind of little things here and there. You know, I mean, I'm really nitpicking at the that point. Yeah. Well, yeah. No. I mean, he should still be a Sixer, but you know what? That's not neither here nor there. All right. Well, to kind of wrap up the podcast a little bit here as well, too. I had some fun 3 questions here to hit you guys with. What is your favorite NBA arena to visit? Besides your own. You can't, so I can't choose. I mean, I'm not going to choose Paycom Center. They don't need a new arena, but you know, sentimental factor, I'd probably choose it, but you can't choose your own arena. What's your favorite arena to go to?
Tyler, well, you think I'll take this one because it's very easy for me. Moved to New York in August and been to MSG now 4 times and was very much thought that I was going to walk in and say, well, this is another arena. What is the hype about? And I had the opposite reaction, was blown away by the arena, by the fans, by the atmosphere. So MSG was hands down the answer for me.
Okay. All right.
I'll go Rocket Mortgage in Cleveland. I think it's still called Rocket Mortgage, or it was when I went. Went to a couple finals games there. Tough to beat an atmosphere during a finals game. Golden State, Cavs, KD dagger 3 in game 3. I actually went to the 2016 when the Cavs were down 3-1, came back and win that series. Place was absolutely bumping. I'm a big fan of Cleveland too. So I'll go Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah. For me, I really want to take Little Caesars Arena, but at the end of the day, I haven't seen that many NBA arenas besides the Thunder's arena. So I'm going to go Staples or crypto.com. I mean, and also for a Lakers game. Just, I don't know what the difference is, but Tyler, you know, Devin, you may too, but yeah, there's just a different atmosphere in there. It's just a different color. It's almost like the light bulbs are different. It's just bizarre. Almost like they're kind of the yellow hue versus the white hue. So it's
the Clippers games are just dark and the Lakers games are just crazy bright. I don't know. I agree. It's weird. But definitely for a Lakers game.
It's cool. All right. Well, very last question here as we end this one out. If you could have an NBA player, any NBA player active, as your personal assistant for a day, who would it be? And this is kind of getting at just who do you think you would vibe with more of any NBA player, right? Like, I'm not saying like, all right, you choose like LeBron because he's got the most amount of money to buy you whatever. I'm not getting at that. You know, I'm saying which player would you have?
I'll take this one. I'm going easy answer for me, Tyrese Maxey. From everything I've heard with the Sixers, I follow him. All the players love him. He seems like he's constantly in a good mood. He's constantly smiling. He's constantly happy. He keeps it light. He takes his job seriously, but he doesn't take himself too seriously. And I think Tyrese Maxey would be fun to be around for a day. And I think he would also get some stuff done for me. So I'll go Tyrese. All
right. That sounds like a good answer. Devin, what about you?
Unbelievably, and this is why they call us the Gerstein brothers, I was also going Tyrese Maxey for all the same reasons Tyler mentioned, with the addition that I was a little more pragmatic. And I think he's going to utilize his speed. I think one of the quickest guys in the NBA. I think that if he's my personal assistant, I'm taking him. I'm making the most of it. And so, yeah, I think he's going to be fun and energetic and willing, and he's going to get it done quickly.
All right, I think that's a great choice. Honestly, I'm going to take the one, the only, the injured, but Steven Adams. I just think the vibes would be incredible. Hanging out with Steven Adams for a day. I mean, I could pick any fight I wanted to, and no one would ever even try to fight me. That's the biggest thing. I could talk all the crap I wanted to, say whatever I wanted to, and everyone's gonna be like, yep, not today. I mean, the next day I'm going to get my crap beat in, but that day, Steven Adams has got me. You know, no one's fighting him. So, with that being said, Tyler and Devin, thanks so much for joining here on the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. Please follow at the CGA Tour on Twitter and Instagram for more, and X, and we'll catch you guys again soon.
Mikal, thank you.
Talk to you guys soon.